Hollywood shines bright, but some of its biggest stars cast the darkest shadows. Behind the awards, the fame, and the perfect smiles lie secrets too disturbing to imagine. They had everything: money, power, worship from millions. So what pushed them to destroy it all? How did idols become predators and legends become monsters? From twisted directors to fallen pop gods, these stories prove one truth in Hollywood: evil doesn't hide in the dark. It hides in plain sight. Are you ready to see who they really are? Let's count down the 49 most evil celebrities in Hollywood history. 49. Woody Allen. Woody Allen was once the face of intellectual cinema, the neurotic genius who turned anxiety into art. His films won Oscars, his wit inspired generations, and he seemed untouchable in Hollywood's golden circle. From Annie Hall to Manhattan, he built an empire on humor, irony, and human fragility. Critics adored him. Fans saw him as proof that intelligence could be glamorous. For decades, Woody Allen wasn't just a filmmaker, he was a cultural language. That brilliance shattered when allegations emerged that he had sexually abused his adopted daughter Dylan Farrow when she was a child. The claims surfaced amid his breakup with Mia Farrow, and though investigations led to no charges, the testimonies never faded. Public outrage deepened when Allen married Soon-Yi Previn, Mia's adopted daughter, whom he had known since her teens. Allen's films still premiere, but his audiences have vanished. Festivals dropped him, stars refused to work with him, and every masterpiece now carries the stench of denial. His legacy stands as proof that genius can coexist with moral decay, and that silence, no matter how artful, eventually screams. 48. Sean Diddy Combs. Sean Diddy Combs once embodied the American dream, a producer turned billionaire mogul, draped in success, luxury, and power. To millions, he was proof that talent and hustle could rewrite destiny. He founded Bad Boy Records, discovered the notorious B.I.G., and redefined hip-hop's golden era. His fashion, music, and parties shaped pop culture itself. For decades, Diddy was untouchable, the symbol of triumph born from struggle. Then the empire cracked. Multiple lawsuits accused him of sexual assault, trafficking, and systematic abuse. Survivors described years of manipulation and violence, alleging that Diddy used fear and wealth to control everyone around him. Federal raids on his mansions exposed the life behind the brand, a world built on intimidation and secrecy. Brands fled, collaborators disappeared, and the public image of hip-hop's king collapsed overnight. Whether proven or not, the accusations have already rewritten his legacy. Diddy is no longer the dream maker. He's the nightmare fame tried to hide. 47. Ron Jeremy. Ron Jeremy was once a bizarre celebrity, a porn star who crossed into mainstream fame. He played the role of the funny pervert, the harmless oddball the public could laugh at. During the 70s and 80s, he appeared in thousands of films and was treated as an icon of sexual liberation. Talk shows loved him, fans lined up for autographs, and he embraced his reputation as the face of adult entertainment. Beneath the sleaze and smiles lay decades of horror. Dozens of women accused him of assault, groping, and rape both on and off film sets. Prosecutors called him a serial predator who used fame as cover for violence. In 2021, he was charged with more than 30 counts of sexual assault. Declared mentally unfit to stand trial, he was transferred to a state hospital, never to walk free again. The man once called the Hedgehog is now a cautionary tale of unchecked power. His fall ended not with justice, but with silence, a fitting fate for someone who built fame from other people's pain. 46. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal was the action hero every kid admired: calm, unstoppable, and righteous. His movies sold the illusion of justice, of a man who always protected the innocent. From Under Siege to Above the Law, Seagal became a box office star and martial arts icon. His stoic persona and whispered confidence made him one of Hollywood's most bankable names of the 90s. Behind that calm exterior was something darker. Multiple actresses and assistants accused him of sexual assault, harassment, and intimidation. They described hotel room auditions, locked doors, and threats that kept them silent. Crew members said Seagal treated sets like his personal playground, where power meant permission. His career disintegrated as the accusations grew louder. Studios stopped hiring him, and he retreated to foreign alliances and fringe politics to stay relevant. Once a hero of justice, Steven Seagal became a symbol of hypocrisy, a man who preached control but lived in corruption. 45. Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner was once one of Hollywood's golden boys, the flashy director behind hits like Rush Hour and Red Dragon. His reputation was built on charm, ambition, and a knack for turning blockbusters into money machines. He lived in luxury, surrounded by stars, always in the room where power pulsed. At his peak, Ratner worked with nearly every major studio, producing Oscar-winning films through his company Rat Pack. He was the ultimate insider, the man who could make or break careers with a single phone call. Then came the flood. Multiple women, including well-known actresses, accused him of sexual harassment, coercion, and assault. They described hotel rooms turned into traps, scripts exchanged for silence, and years of whispered warnings across the industry. His behavior, long rumored, was finally laid bare by the press. In the aftermath, Warner Brothers severed all ties, and his name was scrubbed from credits and studios alike. Once a power player of Hollywood's golden circle, Ratner now exists only as a warning that unchecked charm often hides calculated cruelty. 44. Louis C.K. Louis C.K. was once hailed as comedy's truth-teller, the everyman philosopher who could turn shame into laughter. His stand-up routines dissected human flaws so perfectly that audiences forgave his own. Or so they thought. He rose from small clubs to sell-out arenas, from Louis on FX to Emmy Awards and HBO specials. Critics called him fearless, authentic, even genius. He was the kind of artist who could say anything and get away with it. In 2017, that illusion shattered. Multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct, detailing how he exposed himself and performed indecent acts without consent. He admitted to the allegations, saying, "These stories are true," and the comedy world went silent. Networks pulled his projects, films were cancelled, and his peers condemned him. Louis C.K. eventually returned to the stage, but not the spotlight. His name now carries the weight of disappointment, proof that even those who joke about their demons may be hiding the ugliest ones of all. 43. James Franco. James Franco once seemed like the ultimate Hollywood prodigy, an actor, writer, and professor who could do everything. With that sly smile and restless creativity, he was the golden boy of a generation, balancing Oscar nominations with art exhibitions and university lectures. His rise was meteoric. Franco starred in 127 Hours, Pineapple Express, and The Disaster Artist, earning critical acclaim and adoration from fans. He taught film at prestigious schools, positioning himself as a mentor for young performers seeking his guidance. To the world, he was charming, brilliant, and impossibly cool. But behind the classroom doors and closed film sets, disturbing stories began to spread. Several women accused him of using his power as a teacher and director to exploit students, coercing them into explicit scenes under the guise of art. Some described it as manipulation wrapped in trust. Lawsuits followed, careers crumbled, and Franco vanished from the screen. He later admitted to inappropriate behavior and sought therapy, but the apology came too late. Once seen as an artist who blurred boundaries, James Franco became proof of what happens when ego and access erase them entirely. 42. Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer was once the friendly face of morning television, the voice that greeted millions of Americans every sunrise. With his smooth charm and calm professionalism, he anchored The Today Show for over 2 decades, becoming a household name and a trusted figure. Behind that smile was immense power. Lauer controlled stories, careers, and the tone of America's mornings. Colleagues called him demanding but brilliant, and NBC relied on him as the network's beating heart. In 2017, everything collapsed. NBC abruptly fired him after an internal investigation found inappropriate sexual behavior toward female staff. As the walls fell, more women came forward with claims of harassment, coercion, and abuse of authority. Reports even described a secret button under his desk used to lock the door, a detail that turned national disgust into outrage. Lauer vanished from television, his legacy erased almost overnight. The man who once symbolized credibility became a symbol of betrayal, proving that even the most trusted faces can hide darkness just beneath the surface. 41. Andy Dick. Andy Dick was the wild card of Hollywood comedy, unpredictable, eccentric, and endlessly self-destructive. For years, his outrageous humor and erratic behavior made him both a cult favorite and a constant liability. To audiences, he was the goofy clown who didn't know when to stop. He rose to fame through shows like News Radio and countless guest appearances that showcased his bizarre charm. But off-screen, chaos followed everywhere he went. Friends, co-stars, and strangers alike described encounters filled with drunken aggression, groping, and verbal abuse. His antics at parties and on sets became the stuff of Hollywood legend, but not in the way he wanted. Over the years, Andy Dick was arrested multiple times for assault, battery, and sexual misconduct. Each time he promised to change, but the spiral continued. His talent was overshadowed by addiction, instability, and behavior that crossed every boundary. Today, his career is a shell of what it once was. Andy Dick is remembered not for the laughter he brought, but for the wreckage he left behind, a reminder that fame without control always ends in tragedy. 40. Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman was Hollywood's music magician, the mind behind the haunting scores of Batman, Edward Scissorhands, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. His melodies shaped childhoods and defined the sound of fantasy for generations. To many, he was the sound of magic itself. He began his career with the quirky band Oingo Boingo, then became Tim Burton's musical soulmate, turning oddity into beauty. His compositions won awards, his creativity earned admiration, and his image remained that of an eccentric genius rather than a celebrity. That image cracked when disturbing allegations surfaced. A fellow composer accused him of years of harassment and indecent exposure, revealing a side of the maestro no one expected. Court documents detailed settlement agreements and repeated patterns of behavior hidden behind polite smiles and industry silence. Elfman denied the accusations, but his reputation never recovered. The man once known for scoring dreams became haunted by his own. Today, Danny Elfman stands as another name in a long list of Hollywood icons whose brilliance could not silence their darkness. 39. Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons was once hailed as the godfather of hip-hop, the man who turned street culture into global empire. As co-founder of Def Jam Recordings, he launched Legends, shaped music history, and built a billion-dollar brand from grit and rhythm. To the world, he was not just successful, he was untouchable. Through the 90s and early 2000s, Simmons embodied cool authority. He blended business, art, and activism, sitting beside presidents and preaching spiritual balance. But behind the yoga mats and meditation slogans was a story far darker than anyone imagined. More than a dozen women accused him of rape, sexual assault, and intimidation, describing patterns that stretched across decades. Some said he used his status to trap young models and employees in hotel rooms. Others recalled silence bought with fear or influence. Simmons fled to Bali after the allegations surfaced, calling the claims lies, but his absence spoke louder than words. Today, his name no longer evokes music or power, but betrayal. Russell Simmons' empire was built on rhythm and rebellion, and it crumbled under the weight of his own hypocrisy. 38. Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer was the architect of modern superhero cinema, the visionary who brought X-Men to life and helped define a new era of blockbuster storytelling. He was a genius in Hollywood's eyes, celebrated for pushing boundaries and reshaping franchises. At the height of his career, Singer had access to everything: studios, money, fame, and influence. He cultivated an image of eccentric brilliance, often surrounding himself with young, aspiring actors and lavish parties. But whispers followed him everywhere. Over time, those whispers became accusations. Multiple men came forward claiming they were assaulted or exploited by Singer when they were minors. Lawsuits detailed disturbing accounts of manipulation and predation at private gatherings. While Singer denied every allegation, the evidence and testimonies left scars on both the industry and his legacy. By the late 2010s, studios severed ties, and Singer was erased from projects he once ruled. The director who gave Hollywood its heroes became a symbol of its ugliest corruption, proof that behind the fantasy of power, real victims are left in silence. 37. Jeffrey Tambor. Jeffrey Tambor was one of Hollywood's most respected character actors, the face behind beloved roles in Arrested Development and Transparent. His performances radiated empathy, vulnerability, and quiet humor. For years, he was seen as the gentle soul of prestige television. He won Emmy Awards and the admiration of critics for portraying complex human stories. On screen, Tambor represented understanding and progress, especially through his role as a transgender parent in Transparent, a performance that broke new ground in representation. Then, the same show that made him a symbol of compassion revealed the truth. Several colleagues accused him of harassment and verbal abuse on set. Former assistants and co-stars described inappropriate physical contact and explosive anger masked as method acting. The production's safe space quickly turned toxic, and Tambor was dismissed from the series. He denied wrongdoing, blaming the chaos of fame, but the damage was done. The man once praised for his emotional depth became a symbol of hypocrisy, the actor who portrayed empathy but couldn't practice it in real life. 36. Mario Batali. Mario Batali was a culinary rock star, the man who made Italian food sexy, who turned chefs into celebrities and kitchens into stages. His orange Crocs and boisterous laugh were trademarks of a new era of television fame. Fans adored him. The food world worshipped him. Through his restaurants, books, and hit shows like Molto Mario, he became a household name. Batali's empire stretched from New York to Las Vegas, built on charisma and creativity. But behind the warmth and wine, a different recipe simmered, one of control and entitlement. In 2017, multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct and assault. They spoke of late-night groping, unwanted advances, and drunken encounters in kitchens and offices. Batali stepped down from his companies, apologizing vaguely for his behavior, but the apology only deepened the disgust. His restaurants closed, his TV shows were canceled, and his name was erased from menus. Once a chef who embodied indulgence, Mario Batali became a reminder that appetite and abuse often share the same hunger for power. 35. T.J. Osborne. T.J. Osborne was once celebrated as a country music trailblazer, one half of the Grammy-winning duo Brothers Osborne, known for breaking boundaries and speaking their truth. To fans, he was a symbol of authenticity in an industry built on polished smiles and perfect illusions. His rise was steady and sincere. With his brother John, T.J. helped redefine modern country music, mixing old Southern soul with bold modern honesty. When he came out as gay in a genre often resistant to difference, he was hailed as courageous proof that Nashville could evolve. But beneath the triumph, rumors began to spread. Personal turmoil, failed relationships, and behind-the-scenes chaos painted a more complicated picture. Leaked messages and testimonies from former partners accused him of manipulation, betrayal, and explosive behavior, turning his image of honesty into contradiction. Though no criminal charges emerged, the fallout was immediate. Sponsors backed away, and his career slowed under the weight of controversy. Once praised for bravery, TJWW.com, Osborne now stands as a reminder that even stories built on truth can collapse when the person behind them loses their balance. 34. Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate built an empire out of arrogance. a self-proclaimed alpha male who preached dominance, wealth, and control. With his luxury cars and viral rants, he attracted millions of followers who mistook provocation for power. To some, he was motivation. To others, he was manipulation made flesh. Before fame, Tate was a kickboxing champion with undeniable charisma, but his true rise came online, where his hustler persona turned misogyny into a brand. Young men worshipped him, repeating his every word like gospel, unaware that the empire was built on exploitation. In late 2022, Romanian authorities arrested Tate and his brother on charges of human trafficking, rape, and organized crime. Investigators accused them of luring women into forced labor and creating explicit content under threat and coercion. Tate denied everything, claiming persecution, but the evidence was chilling messages, videos, and testimonies that revealed a network of control. Today, Andrew Tate remains under scrutiny, his fame still echoing through social media. But his empire of ego is cracking, and the world is watching a modern cult collapse in real time. 33. Chris Noth. Chris Noth was the definition of charm, the suave Mr. Big from Sex and the City, the kind of television heartthrob who made audiences swoon with a single smile. For decades, he represented sophistication, success, and effortless cool. His success went far beyond one show. He starred in Law and Order, The Good Wife, and became a respected veteran of television drama. Fans adored his confidence, producers loved his reliability. Chris Noth wasn't just an actor, he was an institution. Then, the mask fell. In 2021, multiple women accused him of sexual assault, describing violent encounters that spanned decades. The stories shared haunting similarities, charm that turned predatory, promises that turned into fear. Noth denied the allegations, calling them fabricated, but the industry didn't wait for a verdict. Within days, he was dropped from projects, his talent agency cut ties, and planned appearances were cancelled. The man once known as Mr. Big became a symbol of hypocrisy, proof that behind the fantasy of perfect love, real cruelty can hide. 32. Ned Fulmer. Ned Fulmer was supposed to be the wholesome one, the loving husband and father from YouTube's beloved comedy group, The Try Guys. His catchphrase, "My wife," became part of his brand, making him the internet's poster boy for loyalty. The Try Guys built their fame on authenticity. Their mix of humor, awkwardness, and honesty made them one of YouTube's most trusted creative teams. Ned's family-first image stood out, turning him into the relatable face of modern fatherhood. Then, in 2022, the internet exploded. Photos surfaced of Fulmer kissing an employee, a woman he supervised during a work event. The story spread like wildfire. Within days, the Try Guys released a public statement announcing his removal for violating company ethics and betraying the trust that built their success. Fans were heartbroken, others furious. His downfall wasn't criminal, but emotional, the collapse of a carefully crafted illusion. Ned Fulmer learned that in the digital age, betrayal doesn't need a courtroom to destroy a career, it only needs one photograph. 31. Trey Songz. Trey Songz was once the smooth prince of R&B, a singer whose voice could melt a room and whose charisma made him a global heartthrob. With platinum albums, sold-out tours, and a devoted fan base, he seemed unstoppable, the heir to the romantic legacy of Usher and R. Kelly. For years, his image was built on passion and charm. His love songs dominated charts, his stage presence electrified audiences, and the world saw him as the perfect mix of talent and confidence. But behind the fame, there was a darker rhythm playing. Over the past decade, multiple women have accused Trey Songz of sexual assault, violence, and intimidation. Lawsuits and police reports detailed a pattern of aggression at clubs, hotels, and after-parties, moments of rage masked as celebrity privilege. Some cases were dismissed, others settled quietly, but the shadow kept growing. The music industry slowly distanced itself, and his fan base fractured between defenders and disbelievers. Trey Songz's story became another verse in Hollywood's darkest song, a melody of talent corrupted by entitlement, echoing long after the music stops. 30. Mystikal. Mystikal's voice once ruled hip-hop raw, raspy, and impossible to ignore. He was a performer who blended power and playfulness, turning chaos into rhythm. With hits like Danger and Shake Ya Ass, he became one of the most recognizable rappers of the early 2000s, a star who could command any stage. But behind the beats was a history of violence that refused to stay buried. In 2004, Mystikal was convicted of sexual assault and extortion after forcing a woman into acts on camera. He served 6 years in prison, was released, and promised redemption. The industry gave him another chance, but the cycle repeated. In 2017, and again in 2022, he faced new rape and kidnapping charges, with prosecutors describing chilling patterns of control and cruelty. His defenders called it misunderstanding. The evidence said otherwise. Today, Mystikal sits behind bars once more. His story isn't one of fame lost, it's one of evil repeated. The rapper who once made the world dance now reminds it how easily talent can become a weapon when conscience disappears. 29. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was the king of pop, a name so vast it transcended music itself. From his early days in the Jackson 5 to solo masterpieces like Thriller and Bad, he built a legacy unmatched in modern culture. His voice, his moves, his imagination, they didn't just entertain the world, they redefined it. For decades, Jackson symbolized perfection. He broke racial barriers on MTV, invented global superstardom, and became an icon for every generation that followed. His art felt immortal, his influence eternal. Yet behind Neverland's gates, a darker legend grew. Families accused him of child molestation, describing years of inappropriate behavior hidden behind fairy tale innocence. Jackson settled one civil case in the 90s and was acquitted of all charges in the 2000s, but the questions never stopped. When Leaving Neverland premiered years after his death, new voices reignited old wounds, forcing the world to ask whether genius excuses nothing or everything. Michael Jackson remains both immortal and infamous. His story is the ultimate paradox, how one man could heal the world with music, yet leave it divided over the truth of who he really was. 28. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was once Hollywood's gatekeeper, the man who decided who became a star and who vanished in silence. As co-founder of Miramax and the Weinstein Company, he produced Oscar-winning classics like Shakespeare, In Love, and Pulp Fiction. To most of the industry, he wasn't just powerful, he was unavoidable. He built his empire on charm and intimidation, turning award season into a kingdom he ruled absolutely. But behind the gold statues and black tuxedos lay a reign of terror. In 2017, the New York Times and the New Yorker exposed decades of sexual assault and abuse, revealing that Weinstein had used his power to prey on actresses, assistants, and colleagues. More than 80 women came forward, their courage sparking the global Me Too movement. His conviction in 2020 for rape and sexual assault, followed by another in Los Angeles, made him the symbol of Hollywood's reckoning. Weinstein now serves a long prison sentence, his name synonymous with systemic abuse. Once a kingmaker, now a cautionary tale, his downfall marked the moment the industry began to purge its own monsters, starting with the one who hid in plain sight. 27. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was once America's dad, the wise, gentle figure who taught generations about family, humor, and morality through The Cosby Show. For decades, he stood as a symbol of success and dignity, especially for black entertainers who saw him as a pioneer. His charm crossed barriers. He filled arenas, won countless awards, and built a reputation of wholesome brilliance that seemed untouchable. To millions, he wasn't just a comedian, he was comfort itself. Then came the storm. More than 60 women came forward, accusing Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting them over decades. Their stories shared haunting similarities, invitations for mentorship, that ended in unconsciousness and trauma. For years, his accusers were ignored. Then, finally, one case broke through. In 2018, Cosby was convicted of aggravated indecent assault and sent to prison, becoming the first major celebrity sentenced in the post-Weinstein era. Though his conviction was later overturned on a legal technicality, his reputation was destroyed beyond repair. Bill Cosby's name, once synonymous with family values, is now a warning that even the most trusted faces can hide a lifetime of betrayal. 26. R. Kelly. R. Kelly was the voice of a generation, the R&B king, whose smooth vocals and chart-topping hits defined the 90s and 2000s. His songs played at weddings, graduations, and church events, creating an illusion of innocence wrapped in melody. But beneath the music was a pattern of horror. For years, rumors swirled about his relationships with underage girls, secret marriages, and abuse. In 2019, the documentary Surviving R. Kelly exposed decades of predation women, describing how fame became his weapon, how promises of mentorship turned into control and imprisonment. In 2021, Kelly was convicted of sex trafficking and racketeering, accused of leading a criminal enterprise that exploited minors and women. Another conviction for child pornography followed soon after. The man who sang "I Believe I Can Fly" is now confined behind bars, his voice silenced by his own cruelty. R. Kelly's story is not just about fame gone wrong, it's about a system that enabled evil for profit. His music once soared across the world. Now, it echoes from the inside of a prison cell. 25. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson was once Hollywood royalty, a leading man and visionary director who conquered both box office and award season. From Lethal Weapon to Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ, he built a reputation as a man of faith, courage, and creativity. His face sold movies, his name guaranteed success. For years, Gibson embodied heroism on screen. The patriot, the warrior, the savior. He was charismatic, brilliant, and unstoppable. But off-screen, he was fighting demons that would eventually destroy his legacy. In 2006, after being arrested for drunk driving, Gibson unleashed a hateful anti-Semitic tirade that shocked the world. Later, recordings surfaced of him spewing racist and misogynistic slurs toward his partner, along with threats of violence. What once looked like passion now appeared as rage, unfiltered and terrifying. Though Gibson made a quiet return with Hacksaw Ridge, earning Oscar nominations, the shadow never left him. His story became a brutal reminder that talent doesn't redeem, hate only amplifies the fall when the mask comes off. 24. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was America's golden hero, a record-breaking football player turned movie star and cultural icon. His smile graced commercials, his confidence charmed millions, and his success symbolized the American dream realized. He made the leap from athlete to actor effortlessly, starring in the Naked Gun films and becoming a household name far beyond sports. O.J. Simpson wasn't just admired, he was beloved until everything changed in one unforgettable moment. In 1994, Simpson was accused of murdering his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ronald Goldman. The evidence was overwhelming: blood, DNA, a glove. The world stopped as the trial of the century unfolded, dividing a nation along lines of race, class, and justice. Despite the evidence, Simpson was acquitted in criminal court, though a civil jury later found him liable for the deaths. His life after the trial was a slow collapse of fame into infamy. Later convicted of armed robbery, Simpson spent years in prison before his release. When he died in 2024, the world remembered not the athlete or the actor, but the man who made everyone question whether fame could outplay justice itself. 23. Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski was once the definition of cinematic genius, the mind behind Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown, a director whose storytelling shaped modern film. His artistry was haunting, his vision unmatched, and his influence undeniable. Hollywood revered him as one of its true masters. He survived unimaginable tragedy, His wife, actress Sharon Tate, was murdered by the Manson family, and from that grief, he built a career that blended darkness and beauty like no one else could. Polanski became both myth and man, a symbol of survival and brilliance. Then, in 1977, that brilliance collapsed. Polanski was arrested and charged with drugging and sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl during a photo shoot. He pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor, but fled the United States before sentencing. For decades he lived in exile, continuing to make acclaimed films while avoiding extradition. He remains free in Europe, shielded by fame and foreign borders. Every award he wins, every ovation he receives, reignites outrage. Roman Polanski's story is the ultimate contradiction, a visionary whose genius cannot erase the crime that defines him. 22. Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey was once the master of control, a two-time Academy Award winner known for his chilling precision and commanding presence. From The Usual Suspects to American Beauty and House of Cards, he was adored by critics and feared by competitors. In the industry, he wasn't just an actor, he was power itself. For years, Spacey seemed invincible. He transformed every role into a masterpiece of subtle menace, embodying the kind of brilliance that made people forget the man behind the mask. But when the mask cracked, what spilled out stunned the world. In 2017, actor Anthony Rapp accused Spacey of sexual misconduct when he was just 14. Dozens more soon came forward, actors, crew members, and assistants describing years of harassment, assault, and intimidation. Studios cut him off immediately. His scenes in major films were reshot, and Netflix terminated his flagship series overnight. Though Spacey was later acquitted in court, his career never recovered. The industry he once ruled now refuses to say his name. Kevin Spacey's fall wasn't just a scandal. It was a warning that brilliance without conscience becomes its own kind of monster. 21. Chris Brown. Chris Brown was the golden child of R&B, a prodigy who seemed destined to inherit the crown of Michael Jackson. With smooth vocals, flawless choreography, and a magnetic smile, he conquered the charts before adulthood. His music defined a generation. His talent was undeniable. He rose fast, winning Grammys, dominating radio, and becoming a global superstar. Audiences adored him, the young man who could sing, dance, and light up any stage. But the same fire that fueled his art would ignite his downfall. In 2009, the world saw the other side of Chris Brown. His brutal assault on then-girlfriend Rihanna shocked fans and shattered his image. The photographs of her bruised face became a symbol of fame's darkest hypocrisy. Though he pleaded guilty and performed community service, new allegations of violence and harassment continued to follow him. Chris Brown still sells out arenas, still charts, hits, but every success carries an echo of that night. His story is one of talent and temper, of redemption sought but never truly found. Fame forgave him, but history never will. 20. Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson built his career on provocation, the self-styled Antichrist superstar who turned shock into art. His gothic image, dark lyrics, and violent theatrics made him a lightning rod for controversy. Parents called him evil. Fans called him fearless. For years he thrived on outrage. He was more than a musician, he was a movement. His concerts were chaos, his interviews, poetry, and menace. Manson represented rebellion itself, the darkness that every generation secretly craved. But behind the persona lay a reality far more sinister than anyone imagined. In the 2020s, multiple women, including actress Evan Rachel Wood, accused him of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. They described manipulation, confinement, branding, and threats. Lawsuits revealed a world of terror, carefully disguised as art. Manson denied everything, claiming it was performance taken out of context, but the damage was irreversible. His career imploded as record labels and networks cut ties. The man who once controlled his own mythology became trapped in it. Marilyn Manson's legacy now stands as proof that some monsters don't wear masks, they build careers out of them. 19. Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson was the laid-back rebel of television, the smirking best friend on that '70s show who made sarcasm cool. Fans loved his quiet confidence, his humor, and his effortless charm. To the public, he was the guy next door who never took anything too seriously. Behind that calm persona, however, was a secret that would one day destroy him. In the early 2000s, multiple women accused Masterson of drugging and raping them in his Hollywood Hills home. All were members of the Church of Scientology, and many claimed that church officials pressured them to stay silent, warning that going to the police would be spiritually wrong. After years of investigations and mistrials, Masterson was convicted in 2023 of raping 2 women and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. The testimonies painted a chilling portrait of manipulation, fear, and protection from a powerful institution. Once a sitcom favorite, Danny Masterson now represents one of Hollywood's darkest betrayals, how fame and faith can merge to protect the very people they should expose. 18. Phil Spector. Phil Spector was a musical genius, the architect of the wall of sound that defined '60s pop. He produced anthems for the Ronettes, the Righteous Brothers, and even the Beatles. In the studio, he was a legend, shaping the way the world would hear music for generations. But outside the recording booth, Spector was consumed by paranoia and rage. Those who knew him spoke of guns on the mixing desk, violent mood swings, and an obsession with control. For years, his brilliance hid the danger underneath, until one night it all exploded. In 2003, actress Lana Clarkson was found dead in Spector's mansion, a gunshot wound to her head. After one mistrial, a jury convicted him of second-degree murder. He spent the rest of his life behind bars, dying there in 2021. Phil Spector's story is a chilling contradiction. A man who built beauty out of chaos, only to let that chaos destroy him. His music still echoes, but every note carries the weight of what he took away. 17. Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer once embodied the perfect Hollywood image, tall, elegant, and born into wealth. With breakout roles in The Social Network and Call Me by Your Name, he became a symbol of sophistication, charm, and modern masculinity. To fans and critics alike, he was the next great leading man. For a while it seemed unstoppable. His face was on every red carpet, his name attached to major film franchises, and his interviews painted him as thoughtful and intelligent. But in 2021, a series of leaked messages shattered that illusion. Several women accused Hammer of emotional manipulation, sexual violence, and disturbing fetishes involving control and cannibalism. The screenshots went viral, turning private horrors into global spectacle. Hammer denied all accusations, but his agency dropped him. His films were cancelled, and his career evaporated overnight. By the time investigations closed with no criminal charges, his reputation was beyond repair. Armie Hammer became a ghost, a reminder that privilege can hide perversion, but only for so long. His story is less about guilt or innocence, and more about how quickly fantasy turns into fear when the truth comes out. 16. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen was television royalty, the highest-paid actor of his time, the wild heart of 2.5 Men, and a man who lived his persona as loudly off-screen as on. His wit, charisma, and swagger made him a household name, the kind of celebrity who seemed untouchable. At the height of his fame, Sheen's life was a whirlwind of parties, excess, and chaos. He dated supermodels, bought mansions, and coined phrases like winning that became pop culture catchphrases. To fans, his recklessness was part of the charm until it stopped being funny. Years of addiction, violence, and erratic public outbursts tore his career apart. In 2015, Sheen revealed he was HIV positive and had hidden it for years, prompting lawsuits from multiple women who claimed he had exposed them without consent. The The revelation turned his image of power into one of pain and deceit. Today, Charlie Sheen is no longer the charming rogue he once played. His story stands as one of Hollywood's loudest implosions, proof that fame without restraint always ends in fire. 15. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller was supposed to be the future, a daring gender-fluid star whose talent defied categories. From We Need to Talk About Kevin to their role as the Flash in DC's cinematic universe, they were hailed as the voice of a new generation. Bold, strange, and revolutionary. For years, Miller's charm was magnetic. They moved effortlessly between art house films and superhero blockbusters, celebrated for their intelligence and individuality. But behind the public image of rebellion and freedom, something far darker was brewing. In the early 2020s, headlines about Miller began spiraling out of control. Arrests for disorderly conduct, accusations of grooming minors, restraining orders, and bizarre reports of cult-like behavior turned fascination into fear. Families accused them of psychological manipulation. Victims described paranoia and aggression. Miller later apologized, citing mental health struggles, but the industry's patience had run out. Warner Brothers distanced itself, and their once bright career now hangs by a thread. Ezra Miller's story became a cautionary tale of how genius without grounding can burn everything it touches, including itself. 14. Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors was one of Hollywood's brightest rising stars, a powerhouse actor whose performances in Lovecraft Country, Creed III, and the Marvel franchise made him a household name. He was poised to become the face of an entire cinematic era. Majors carried himself with intensity and intelligence. Directors praised his discipline, fans loved his vulnerability, and critics called him the next Denzel. It seemed nothing could stop him until his real-life temper destroyed the myth. In 2023, Majors was arrested in New York after his girlfriend accused him of assault and harassment. Evidence showed visible injuries, and testimonies revealed a pattern of control and emotional abuse. Though he avoided prison by completing a domestic violence program, the conviction shattered his career. Marvel fired him, brands pulled campaigns, and scripts were rewritten to erase him. Jonathan Majors' rise was meteoric, but his fall was even faster, a reminder that in Hollywood, power and pride can collapse overnight, leaving only the echo of what might have been. 13. Jared Fogle. Jared Fogle was once America's most unlikely celebrity, the man who claimed he lost over 200 pounds eating Subway sandwiches. His story became a marketing phenomenon, turning him into a national symbol of discipline, health, and second chances. For a while, he was adored by everyone from kids to parents to presidents. He toured schools, gave motivational speeches, and appeared in hundreds of commercials. Subway built its entire wholesome image around him. To the public, Jared Fogle was the picture of self-control and success. But the man behind the slogan was living a nightmare in secret. In 2015, federal investigators discovered that Fogle possessed child pornography and had traveled across state lines to prey on minors. The case shocked the nation. The healthy eating role model, revealed as a predator. He was sentenced to over 15 years in prison, stripped of fame, wealth, and dignity. Subway erased his name overnight. Jared Fogle's story stands as one of the most haunting betrayals in modern pop culture, the smiling face that hid something unspeakable. 12. Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder was the face of the 90s, the cool, magnetic star who made weirdness beautiful. From Edward Scissorhands to Reality Bites, she captured the spirit of a generation that wanted to be seen but never judged. With her big eyes and fragile confidence, she became Hollywood's favorite outsider. At her peak, Ryder was everywhere: magazine covers, award shows, and red carpets. She wasn't just an actress, she was an era. But fame can turn even the brightest stars restless. In 2001, the world watched in disbelief as Winona Ryder was arrested for shoplifting thousands of dollars worth of designer items from Saks Fifth Avenue. The trial was a media circus. Cameras followed her every step, and the sweetheart of indie cinema suddenly looked lost, caught between loneliness and self-destruction. She was convicted of grand theft and vandalism, sentenced to probation and community service. Years later, she rebuilt her image through Stranger Things, but the shadow never vanished completely. Winona Ryder remains beloved, but her story reminds us how even the most adored icons can unravel when the weight of perfection becomes too heavy to carry. 11. Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin was the embodiment of old-school Hollywood charm, sharp, witty, and commanding. From Glengarry Glen Ross to 30 Rock, he built a reputation as both a gifted actor and a cultural icon, admired for his charisma and powerful screen presence. Off-screen, he was outspoken, political, and unafraid to provoke controversy. For decades, Baldwin balanced fame and influence effortlessly. He hosted award shows, imitated presidents, and seemed to thrive under pressure. But behind the charm was a temper long whispered about by co-stars, assistants, and paparazzi. Then came the tragedy that ended the illusion. In 2021, while filming The Western Rust, a prop gun Baldwin held discharged, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring the director. The incident sent shockwaves through the world, a fatal mistake that exposed chaotic safety conditions and negligence on set. Baldwin insisted he never pulled the trigger, but prosecutors charged him with involuntary manslaughter, arguing that his recklessness cost a life. Whether convicted or not, Alec Baldwin's name will forever carry the weight of that moment. The man who once embodied control became the face of a tragedy that proved even in Hollywood, power offers no protection from consequence. 10. Amber Heard. Amber Heard rose fast through Hollywood's ranks, known for her ethereal beauty and confidence. With roles in The Rum Diary and Aquaman, she became one of the industry's most recognizable young actresses. Her marriage to Johnny Depp made her a global fascination. 2 stars, one whirlwind romance that promised glamour and passion. That passion turned to war. Heard accused Depp of domestic violence, presenting photos and testimony that shocked the world. Depp fought back, accusing her of manipulation and abuse. Their defamation trial in 2022 became one of the most publicized court battles in entertainment history, streamed live, dissected daily, and judged by millions of strangers. The jury sided with Depp, awarding him damages and effectively ending Heard's career. Hollywood distanced itself. Social media turned vicious. For some, she remained a survivor. For others, the villain in a spectacle of lies and broken trust. Amber Heard now lives in exile from the industry that once adored her. Her story is not just about fame destroyed, it's about how, in the age of viral justice, truth itself becomes another performance. 9. Will Smith. Will Smith was Hollywood's golden boy, a rapper turned movie star whose charisma could light up any room. From The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to Men in Black and The Pursuit of Happiness, he built a reputation as the industry's most likable superstar. His smile was pure confidence, his brand built on positivity, discipline, and family values. He transcended genres and generations. For decades, Smith was untouchable, the embodiment of professionalism and grace, proof that fame could coexist with integrity. But the world saw something different the night he stepped onto the Oscar stage in 2022. After comedian Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will walked up before millions of viewers and slapped him across the face. The moment froze Hollywood. In an instant, the man known for calm control became a symbol of unchecked anger. He won an Oscar minutes later, but his victory was drowned in disbelief. Will Smith apologized publicly and resigned from the Academy, but the damage was done. His story became a study in contradiction, how a lifetime of restraint can collapse in a single moment, and how one act can turn the world's most beloved hero into its most complicated villain. 8. Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf began as a child prodigy, the kid from Disney's Even Stevens, who grew into one of the most daring actors of his generation. With roles in Transformers, Fury, and Honey Boy, he was unpredictable, brilliant, and painfully honest. Hollywood saw him as an artist on the edge, maybe too honest for his own good. But that edge eventually became a cliff. Years of erratic behavior, public drunkenness, violent outbursts, and performance stunts that blurred reality turned his genius into chaos. Then, in 2020, musician FKA Twigs filed a lawsuit accusing him of sexual and emotional abuse, describing a cycle of manipulation, fear, and cruelty. The accusations revealed a side of Shia that fans had long suspected but never wanted to believe. He entered rehab and admitted to hurting others, calling himself ashamed and accountable. Yet forgiveness came slowly. Studios cut ties, collaborators stayed silent, and his once promising future disappeared into uncertainty. Shia LaBeouf's story is both tragedy and warning, the portrait of an artist consumed by his own demons, and proof that even self-awareness cannot save someone who refuses to change. 7. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was born for fame. From her breakout role in The Parent Trap to her reign as the queen of teen comedies in Mean Girls, she was the golden girl of a generation. Hollywood adored her, talented, beautiful, and endlessly marketable. For a while, she looked unstoppable, destined to transition from child star to screen legend. But success came too fast, and freedom came too early. By her 20s, headlines shifted from box office triumphs to mugshots and court appearances. Addiction, DUIs, probation violations, and public breakdowns turned her life into a tabloid circus. She became the face of wasted potential, the star who couldn't escape her own spotlight. Each comeback was brief, drowned out by another scandal or failed promise. Studios stopped calling, and Lindsay retreated overseas, trying to rebuild her life in silence. In recent years, she's returned to smaller projects, slowly piecing together a quieter version of herself. Her story is Hollywood's oldest tragedy, a child molded by fame before she knew who she was. Lindsay Lohan didn't just lose her career, she lost her innocence under the flash of 1,000 cameras. 6. Nick Carter. Nick Carter was once the crown jewel of the Backstreet Boys, the baby-faced pop idol whose voice and charisma captured hearts around the world. At the height of the boy band era, he was teenage royalty, adored by millions who saw him as the perfect mix of sweetness and charm. The group's fame made them global icons, and Carter's image as the good one only grew stronger. But behind the glittering performances and smiles were rumors of violence, substance abuse, and control. Then, the truth began to surface. Multiple women, including former pop singer Melissa Schumann, accused Carter of sexual assault and coercion, alleging that his fame allowed him to manipulate and silence victims for years. He denied every accusation, calling them lies, but the lawsuits and testimonies painted a darker reality, one where celebrity became protection instead of accountability. Today, Nick Carter still performs, but the cheers have faded into discomfort. His legacy, once filled with nostalgia, is now shadowed by doubt. The boy who sang about love became another reminder that fame often hides the things we least want to see. 5. Russell Brand. Russell Brand was once the wild philosopher of pop culture, a stand-up comic turned movie star, known for his wit, chaos, and dangerous charm. From Forgetting Sarah Marshall to Get Him to the Greek, he built a career out of rebellion. He was loud, magnetic, and always a headline waiting to happen. His rise was meteoric. Brand transformed addiction and scandal into art, speaking about politics, spirituality, and fame with hypnotic confidence. For years, he was treated as a provocateur with purpose, the rare celebrity who seemed both outrageous and intelligent. Then the facade cracked. In 2023, multiple women accused Brand of rape, sexual assault, and emotional abuse during his years of peak fame. Their accounts described manipulation, coercion, and an industry too enamored with his fame to stop him. Brand denied everything, calling it a coordinated attack, but the testimonies and investigations told another story. YouTube demonetized his channel, sponsors cut ties, and his self-styled empire of enlightenment collapsed. Russell Brand's story shows how charisma can become camouflage and how the louder someone preaches virtue, the darker their secrets may be. 4. Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Jr. once embodied joy itself. From his breakout performance in Jerry Maguire and his famous line, "Show me the money," he became the face of energy, optimism, and pure Hollywood charisma. An Academy Award followed, along with roles that made him one of the most beloved actors of the 90s. For a long time, he could do no wrong. His laughter-filled talk shows, his smile-sold movies, and his reputation seemed as wholesome as his on-screen charm. But fame, once again, hid the darkness that success can amplify. In the late 2000s, dozens of women accused Gooding of groping and inappropriate touching at bars, parties, and public events. The pattern was impossible to ignore. In 2022, he pleaded guilty to 1 count of forcible touching in a New York court, avoiding prison, but confirming the truth everyone suspected. The man who once shouted with joy on stage is now remembered with shame. Cuba Gooding Jr. Story is another reminder that in Hollywood, the line between confidence and cruelty is often invisible until the applause stops. 3. Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes was once America's sweetheart, the Nickelodeon prodigy, who made millions laugh with The Amanda Show, and later dominated teen comedies like She's the Man and What a Girl Wants. She had it all: talent, timing, and the kind of radiant charm that promised a long, bright future. Her early years were a dream. Critics called her the next Lucille Ball. Fans adored her quirky humor, and Hollywood lined up to cast her. But the pressure of fame, mixed with isolation and public scrutiny, soon pushed her into a devastating spiral. By her 20s, Amanda's life unraveled before the world's eyes: erratic tweets, car crashes, arrests, and heartbreaking mental health struggles. She was placed under a conservatorship, her family fighting to protect what little remained of the girl who once lit up the screen. Amanda Bynes now lives quietly, focusing on recovery far from the spotlight. Her story isn't one of crime or malice, but of collapse, a young star destroyed not by evil, but by an industry that devours its own. 2. T.J. Miller. T.J. Miller was the wild genius of comedy, unpredictable, loud, and dangerously funny. From his breakout in Silicon Valley to his scene-stealing role in Deadpool, he seemed destined for a lifetime of laughter and success. Audiences loved his chaos, studios banked on his energy. But behind the humor was volatility. Castmates and crew described outbursts, drunken rants, and a pattern of bullying that turned sets toxic. In 2017, an ex-college acquaintance accused him of violent sexual assault, and shortly after, he was investigated by the FBI for making a false bomb threat on a train, a stunt he later called a misunderstanding. HBO dropped him. Major studios followed, and his reputation collapsed almost overnight. What once looked like creative eccentricity now seemed like self-destruction in slow motion. T.J. Miller's story is what happens when talent mistakes chaos for authenticity, when the laughter stops, and all that's left is the echo of a man who burned every bridge he built. 1. Aaron Carter. Aaron Carter was the golden boy of pop's bubblegum era, a child star with a voice full of innocence and a smile made for stadium lights. The younger brother of a Backstreet Boy, he grew up in fame's fast lane, touring the world before most kids his age had even finished middle school. To millions, he was the sound of their childhood. In the early 2000s, Aaron was unstoppable. Platinum albums, screaming fans, and sold-out shows made him one of the biggest young stars on earth. He sang about crushes and candy, but behind the glitter, his life was anything but sweet. As he grew older, fame turned toxic. Addiction, family feuds, public meltdowns, and heartbreaking live streams revealed a young man unraveling in real time. He spoke openly about trauma, betrayal, and being exploited by the industry that once called him its prodigy. In 2022, Aaron Carter was found dead in his home at just 34 years old. His death was ruled an accidental overdose. The boy who once made the world dance left it silent, a tragic echo of how fame can build a life too fast for a heart to keep up. Fame was supposed to make them untouchable, but in the end, it only magnified their flaws. Behind every smile, every song, and every red carpet pose was a truth the spotlight could never hide. These 49 names prove that the higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. Some of them were monsters from the start. Others were broken souls who lost themselves chasing perfection. But all of them show one thing, that Hollywood's light doesn't save anyone. It exposes them. So which story shocked you most? Which fall from grace hit hardest? Because if there's one truth that never changes, it's this. In Hollywood, every secret eventually finds its audience.